or
Ah,
Swedish, because they feel themselves a different community. English is not their mother tongue. Their mother tongue is sign language, and they
ah,
are deaf people. That's why they prefer to write it with capital as a different community.
interesting.
There are then people that have had an accident, people that we get older, and then our ears just go. Is the
Yeah.
name of the game? Is nature? Then those people, we are deaf as physical rather than community driven, and then we write it in a small d. And what you get as well is hard of hearing is a term that in Spanish it will be politically incorrect.
Mm,
You couldn't translate literally that into Spanish because that sounds awful to say
mm.
to a person. But in English it sounds okay, and they use politically correct SDH. Yeah, everybody will be talking about that. So you can do them intralingually, English into English. But now these days, I can see an Arabic film with subtitles in English for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. And it's giving information, the sounds, the music, if there is an irony, who is speaking,
Yeah, man.
if they are speaking with an accent, whatever. And the other type that we have is the live re-speaking. Imagine somebody gives an interview or somebody gives a speech there and then. So what we're gonna do, or tennis, they were playing tennis this weekend in Melbourne in Australia. I need to create subtitles, and I don't know what is gonna happen. So I have to be there and creating the subtitles live as the match is taking place. So what I usually do is I will be listening to the speakers, or if I am the commentator, watching the match, and then I will have a microphone that is connected to my subtitling software, and then I will be dictating onto the microphone, and then you will get subtitles on the screen, and that's what we call re-speaking. Qatar, when they did the World Football World Championships, they were doing all the matches with subtitles for people who were deaf, and they were doing re-speaking. They were doing them live at the time. And FIFA has been looking for people to work in this type of subtitles for quite a few times now, because they are developing their accessibility services pretty much and quickly as well. So it's an area that is growing to cater for all sectors of the population. And then you've got as well audio description for people who are blind or partially sighted. As I mentioned to you, in the silences, you will be feeding the information. And then you've got here the icons that we use at international level, most of them just to indicate on the screen that this comes with audio description or with closed captions. Yeah. So what is the industry doing with all this material, all these different practices? How is the industry evolving? Now we've got, I like to talk about this audio visualization of communication. We communicate more and more through screens and audio productions. To give you an idea, YouTube, they offer every day, they say that every day 1 billion hours of video are watched. So every day, 1,000 million hours are watched only on YouTube. There is also, of course, TikTok, Instagram, Vimeo, and all the different platforms on the internet. But this is what only YouTube is doing. And 40% of that content is in English. The rest is in other languages and needs to be sometimes translated. Sometimes it doesn't get translated. It's user content. We don't need it sometimes. Again, YouTube, every minute of our lives, 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube. So by the time that I've been talking here, there are several thousands of hours that people have been uploaded to YouTube on video content. If you look at IMDb, which is possibly the biggest data bank for films and audiovisual productions, their estimate is that every year humans produce around 15,000 films, different languages, different countries, and more than 250,000 episodes for TV shows. So that's a lot of material. So there is something like 750 hours of audiovisual material, commercial audiovisual material, that is produced every day for consumption. And then Netflix will be launching round about 4 to 5 new shows every week. So this is a constant flow of new material and new information that is coming onto the screen. So you can imagine how challenging it can be sometimes to then translate all these hours into not just one language, but into many, many languages. Netflix will work into nearly 60 languages. So all those programs will have to be translated, subtitled into many languages, and dubbed into many languages as well, and must contain accessibility as well. So it's a huge enterprise and a way of doing this. Now you've got NIMSI, which is an observatory of translation that is based in the USA, sorry. And then this is what they say the translationist industry is divided into. So you've got lots of things that we are doing, many companies working in here, translation of written paper or written text. But then what is interesting to me is this area here, which is subtitling and dubbing. Both together round about 16-17% of the volume is devoted to our field. It doesn't say in their analysis whether they also contain access services, but this is a pretty substantial chunk of what is being done in our field. Now, if I show you this map, which contains Syria, then you've got China, and then you've got as well North Korea there in gray. Can anybody tell me what this map represents? Can anybody guess what this map is all about? No?
So
somebody's, you can,
maybe there is something here we notice. I don't know. There is China.
Yeah, it's gray.
Is gray, maybe because of the censorship, because of its ideology, because of the communism. There is something that to be said about.
But I don't think Russia
there is Syria.
Russia is not there.
Of all the Arab countries.
It's we have.
I think
I mean
censorship is not only of China.
China is there too. And what?
No, somebody told me once. Oh yes, it's a map of the world.
Yes, of course.
Yes. I cannot dispute that. You got it right. But
is streaming platforms?
Just one. This is the world according to
Netflix. Yeah.
This is where Netflix says that they operate in the world. Now they're not in China, but they have been translated into both simplified Chinese, which is the one spoken in mainland China, and traditional Chinese, which is the one spoken in Taiwan and Hong Kong and Macau from day one. So they're not operating, but they are translating. So some people must be watching it with Chinese subtitles. And of course, Syria, Arabic. Arabic is also an important language in Netflix. So this is, in essence, Netflix are supposed to be all over the world with their productions. And that's what they call OTT. I don't know if you are familiar with this expression. It's very common in the industry. Netflix uses it a lot, which is over the top. It's a synonym of streaming or video on demand. Is over the top. Yeah, because it is on the top of your screen. It's on the surface of your screen. You don't have a product. You don't have a DVD. You don't have anything with you to be able to relate to. So it is the new term that is used a lot in the industry. So be aware when you see it, is actually referring to all these streamers and all these companies.
But now, I think, Jorge, sorry to interrupt you, Jorge, but I think in the case of Syria, we have the gray color. Maybe one day, will be removed because of the new government. Maybe the installation of a new regime. Maybe.
Fingers crossed. I hope so. And to be honest, I know Chinese people quite well because I've got many students of them. That is what is called VPN. And a VPN can simulate that you are somewhere else in the world, and then you can access anything you want.
Yeah, VPN.
So I'm pretty sure that people in Syria might also be able to consume and watch Netflix,
VPN,
but it's mostly politically. Sometimes it's the political decision there, but the actual real life is that many people will be watching it.
Okay.
But yes, hopefully it will be done in a way that is openly, and they are operating in there with the new regime.
What about niche market languages?
Sorry, say it again.
The niche market languages.
Well, they of course they've got in the industry. We have what we call figs. Fig is the fruit that you eat from the trees, and it stands for French, Italian, German, Spanish. Those 4 languages together with English, those are the most frequent languages. So most companies, well, all companies will have people working in these languages because they are needed. All the platforms are doing it and so on. And then you've got really strong languages like Arabic, like Latin American Spanish as well. You've got Turkish, because they reach largest populations, and they, they are the prospect of launching in those countries, of bringing in more people. And I'll show you in the next stats. You will see where Netflix is looking to expand. Yeah. But yes, there are new languages coming. They keep adding languages all the time. Netflix is in the whole world, and they're doing 60 languages, more or less. YouTube is only in 100 countries, and they're doing 80 languages. So YouTube are doing more languages than Netflix, and they are in half the countries. So Netflix is banking on English being used in some countries. They don't do Mongolian, for instance. They don't do Georgian. So in those countries, either they watch it through other languages or whatever. Yeah, but this is some of the areas, and that's why Netflix keeps adding languages. Only very recently, 3 years ago, they added Catalan, Basque, Galician to their portfolio, together with languages in France. So they monitor the market, and they see where the new needs might be, so that they can bring in those languages. But you've got here, this is what the OTT industry, the audiovisual evolution, is meant to be. And you can see that it's a very steep curve, just going up in the volume of money that is going to be generating. And then you've got Netflix. Last year, around this time, last year, that's what they made in money. So you've got most of the money comes, if you add outside of the Americas, of the US and Canada, if you add the rest, there's a lot more money than the money that they generate in the USA. But crucially, if you come to Asia Pacific, you've got countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam that are heavily populated, India. So they could do a lot better. And that's why they're now targeting many countries in the Far East, in Middle East as well, because those are countries that have the potential of growing in terms of membership. Just recently, last week, Netflix announced the number of members, of subscribers, and now they've gone over 300 million subscribers that are watching Netflix on a regular basis. So it tells you an idea on how it's going. One of the problems, or one of the challenges that we have now, is that I'm sure in Morocco as well, you probably have lots of Spanish productions, Turkish productions, Korean productions that are becoming very popular. Turkish and Spanish are very popular. How do you translate from Turkish into Spanish, or into Italian, or into Swedish? From Korean into Arabic, or into German? So what we're finding now is that you've got productions, Squid Game, in Korean. So what we find is that Korean is then translated into English. Sort of literal translation, close translation to the original, so that I, the translator, the Spanish translator that don't understand Korean, can somehow guess. Can I understand what is happening in the Korean? Because I'm going to be translating from the English language that I know. I don't know Korean. And I'm going to be using this English translation to produce my dubbed version in Italian or in Spanish or in Arabic, if I'm going to do it, or in German. What I'm going to do as well is I'm going to use that translation. I'm going to adapt it a little bit, and I'm going to dub into English. This is something very new. 10 years ago, we didn't have any dubbing into English. Now, virtually everything is being dubbed into English. Clearly, because people are watching it and they are generating traction in those productions, and that's why Netflix keeps adding dubbed versions in English. And then I'm going to use it as well for the subtitles of English. Yeah, so I'm using this raw translation that somebody, usually a Korean, has translated into English, so that I understand what is going on, and then I'm going to be using it for all the rest. So I need to make this translation here, this pivot language, is perfect, as good as possible, so that the other 35 languages, 80 languages can work from this one here and can have all the annotations that they need. Now, this is easier said than done. The challenge now is that many of these translations are below par, the quality, and then that suffers. When you get in Spanish, then it's really poor. And I don't know if you were aware, when the Squid Game came out, the translation into Spanish was diabolical. They have to do it again because it was really, really bad. They didn't know that it was going to be such a big success, and they have to go back and redo it and check it again. So it is a challenge of
30.
Yes. Yeah. And it was a fiasco at the beginning. So they have to check and undo. So how do we deal with these things? We've gone to the cloud. Yeah, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about artificial intelligence and what the cloud means for us. So this is how the market has gone. Some of you might be familiar with the DVD. Some of you may be even not familiar with the DVD, because who does use a DVD these days? The Blu-ray never really made it. So we went to the platform era. We are now in the digital era, the platform area. So we do subtitles, for instance, traditionally with desktop solutions. So WinCaps is a very famous one. You install it on your computer, and then you use it for doing your subtitles. You can have here the text that you're writing, your Arabic subtitles. You've got here in small, time in, time out, the duration of the subtitle. Remember, no more than 6 seconds, no less than 1. And then you can see your subtitle is in here, and then you can do many other things in here. They were sold among some fan subbers that then freeware also exists. Subtitle Workshop is one used by some people, but you've got many others in here. You've got commercial programs, all of those on the top. You also have freeware, the ones in the middle, and then you also have some companies had their own subtitling programs. You couldn't buy them, you couldn't find them, but if you were working for these companies, they will give you their subtitling program. But all this is not really working any longer in the industry. Most people will now work in the cloud. They don't have anything on their computers. They only need a URL. They need an address. You go to that address, use your password and your credentials, and then you work in the cloud. So the technology allows you to have all the material saved in the cloud. I don't need to send you anything. You don't need to download anything. So there are less chances that the material is going to be pirated. Now, if I send it to you, you might lose it. Somebody might steal it from your computer or whatever. This way is in the client's environment. If I do an update, I update the cloud, you don't need to worry. Next time you come into the cloud, the new things have taken place. If you have it installed on your computer, I need to send you a installer. I need to send you another program. You need to reinstall it. All the things that come with that. Then it's much easier as well in the cloud to bring in, for instance, machine translation, memory tools, and things like that. And also, subtitling programs tended to be very, very expensive. One of the beauties now is that if you're working for a company, you will be working on their platform, and then you don't need to pay anything for the technology. The company is giving that to you. Before, you had to have a piece of software that, as I said, was reasonably expensive. What it allows you is, particularly if you are a project manager, the cloud is amazing because you can do everything in the cloud. And if you are ill and you cannot come to the office, somebody else can go into the cloud from another and then see what you did yesterday, and they can continue. So we're not stuck in one computer, but we are there. All the material is available. I can do the entry test. If you want to work in this field, most companies are going to test you. And they're going to tell you, okay, come to our cloud-based system, do this test, translate into Arabic. If I like, if I don't like it, I'll tell you, get it again and do it another time or whatever. And if you are a project manager, you can see what everybody is doing at different stages, because you can go there. It's a bit like the Big Brother. You can go inside and you can see who is working, and so on. Yeah, so it gives you a lot more power, a lot more agency if you are a project manager. And then subtitling, you can do everything. Yeah, you even burn your subtitle with your video. So when you go into the cloud, it looks something like this. I've been given a 1105 Jorge. And what I can do is I can create subtitles from scratch. I've got a video waiting for me, and I need to do everything. Listen to the video, segment the subtitles, produce my translation, or everything. Somebody has given me the English subtitles because it's a Korean film. I've got the English subtitles, and I need to translate the English subtitles into Arabic. So I'm going to be using this Translate Pro that I translate from a script. I don't need to worry about the technical dimension usually. If I have experience, I'm going to be reviewing the work of somebody else, and I can also do accessibility. I can do closed captions, which is the American English for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, or I can do audio description for people who are blind. And I can also burn the subtitles on the video. So I can put my subtitles in the video, and I've got one video with subtitles that I can put on my website. Because I am the administrator, I can go here to the dashboard and I can see everybody's work and everything that they've done, how many times they've come into the system, etc., etc., etc. So that will be for a project manager. That's what I will go and do all my work. This is what it looks like. You got here a video, then here your subtitles. As we always tell, time in, time out is going to be on the screen for 5 seconds. This one is going to be on the screen for 224. This one is going to be for 1 second. And then you can see in here the sound wave, all these things. Here is silent, nobody's talking. But you can see here, it goes up, it's because they're speaking. And this orange is because the images are going to change. And I don't have subtitle across this short change. Yeah, so I'm always maximizing that. If I do the translation, I've got two. I've got the original in English, and this is the one that I'm going to be using for my Russian in here or my Arabic translation. Yeah, and I continue from there, and I can see my subtitles as they appear on the screen. And then this is so popular that the European Parliament, they've got a unit for subtitles. That's the platform. That's what they use. It's called Clint, and then you can see similar. You can see the original in English, your translation, the time in, time out, the duration is more user-friendly. It allows you to leave a comment for the reviewer, and you get annotations telling you, watch out, this Amadeus is the name of blah, 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 and they explain to you what it is so that you don't need to go to Google and search for whatever it might be. Yeah? And this is a sneak preview. That's what it looks for Netflix. Netflix, the platform is called Originator, and then it looks more or less the same. They all do the same. They look slightly different, but the functionality is always the same. So you've got it in here, what it looks like. Now, this was so popular that now many companies are also using the cloud for dubbing, not just only subtitles, but also for dubbing. And then you've got voice queue is the most popular for dubbing, but you've got some others. Zoo here, Zoo scripts, that's also used for dubbing. What does it do in dubbing? What I can do in here is that I can have the script and the video in one program. So I can open, as in subtitles, I open my video, I open an area where I can do my translation. People will open one video and then in Word, they will be doing their translation. Now everything is in one platform and everything is integrated in there. And then you can see, remember when we said if there is a P, or if there is a B, or if there is an M, you need to be alerted, because then you need to find the translation that will force the voice talent to also close their lips. So the system is telling me, when I translate, be careful, look for something that is also bilabial in Arabic. So there's no mismatches. And I can see how my translation is going to look like. Whether it's going to be straight, and the pace of the sentence slows as it goes and on and on. And then the voice talent will know whether they need to be faster when they are reading or slower to be in synchrony with the lips. I can visualize the process before it's actually being done. And this is what it looks like. So I've got, again, this is the English, the original. This is going to be my translation. And I can see, okay, this is the original. You can see the Italian looks pretty similar. So it's not going to be too rushed or too slow. So it's more or less the same. And you can see in here there is museum. Then you can see in Italian there is museo. And then the M's are there. And if you look for some others, me looks like makes. So you are finding similarities in there that you can see. You can see in here the same, you know, a clock that is opening the mouth, clock. Then you've got orologio that also opens the mouth. And then you can see in here, if there is a pause, then yeah, pause, it's close the mouth. My character was always late. And then you can see the same in Italian. So you can play all the time, and it's a lot more visual than we had ever been able to produce. What things, and now everybody's talking about artificial intelligence, and I felt I needed to say something here as well. So everybody is, what is this artificial intelligence? Well, we have had lots of things in subtitling and audiovisual translation for a long time. You know, audiovisual translation only exists because of technology. We need a film, which is pure technology translation. Yeah? In the late 2018, MemoQ created the first ever memory tool for subtitling. And then Trados also created one a few months later because they couldn't be left behind. None of them is really good for subtitling. They tried, but imagine if you were doing one of those Turkish soap operas that are very long, a memory tool can be very good for consistency. To know somebody repeats the same expression all the time, so you can use it again so that you can characterize that protagonist in the series. But that came quite late, and as I said, it's still being looked into. We moved much faster into machine translation. With that, in my opinion, is a little bit of a mistake. We should maximize memory tools and then see what machine translation can do, because sometimes translation cannot condense information, it's too literal, it cannot be creative, and we find lots of issues. Now, the Audiovisual Translators Europe, which is an association of lots of associations, national association for audiovisual translators, created this machine translation manifesto. Is available on the website. You can download it and read it. And they call it machine translation, but it's much more than that. So they talk about augmented translation technologies that could be emphasized, that could be developed in our field. Yeah, and it's a very nice document to give ideas on what we could do. What is the general things that we can do with artificial intelligence? Well, automatic machine translation, which is with neural machine translation, but also you know, the new addendums from artificial intelligence. We've got automatic speech recognition. Yeah, somebody's speaking and I can transcribe what they're saying. Image recognition is another area that is very important for us. I can see the images, the faces, for instance, and synthetic voices that I can recreate. And I'm going to be telling you a little bit. So there are 3 dimensions: a speech to text. So I can, for instance, in our field, re-speaking. For instance, you could activate, if we were in Zoom, you can activate subtitles. And I am talking, and then you can see the text written down. I wouldn't call them subtitles because they come later and so on, but you can. What he's doing is listening to my voice and then writing the text. We can also do that intralingually in the same language or across languages. Sometimes you can do with translation. The results are still not very good, but that's what people are trying. An automated transcription. You get a video, you need to transcribe what they say. You don't want to be listening and writing down. There are tools that will listen to the original, transcribe, and then you need a human to make sure that the transcription is correct. You can do automated spotting. If I know when people are talking, then I can assign the times to my subtitles. And when people are silent, the subtitles don't have any times there. So that can help me to do the spotting quicker, although it's not helping us as much as we wanted to so far. I can do text to speech. I've got written text that I'm going to now verbalize. We do this now with synthetic voices, particularly for blind people. If you send an email to a blind person, they're going to have a screen reader and it reads the text into a voice. But we can also do it, for instance, for revoicing. So I've got a documentary and I can have a written translation with the time codes, and then with a synthetic voice, it will read whenever the time arrives. Yeah? And I could also do it for audio description. Remember, we said in the silences. So what I'm going to do is this text, I'll put beginning here, which is silent, ends here, still silent before people are speaking. And then with an automated voice, they can read it and make it available for blind people. What I can do also is,
by the way, we activate closed captions even here in Google, on Google
in
Meet.
here, but if you want, that's again, most platforms these days will do it.
Yeah.
They will have the speech to text is a reasonably good and also works well with different accents. You know, my accent is not English. I've got a Spanish accent when I speak English, but it still will pick up well my English when I'm talking. And you've got the final frontier is a speech to speech. So you are somebody's talking and then you get also talking in there. So you can do, for instance, similar voices. I don't know if you've been following The Brutalist, which is a film that is now nominated for the Oscars, and they used artificial intelligence to work with the voices to create similar voices that were speaking Hungarian. And now there is a lot of fuss because they say, but that's cheating, because obviously the protagonist couldn't speak Hungarian, but they've recreated similar voices and it seems that they are speaking Hungarian, but they're not. It's artificial intelligence. So we'll see what happens with the Oscars and so on. It's The Brutalist. But that's what you could do. You could also modify the voices. You could make a voice less shrieking, more deeper, whatever you want to do. You can do lots of things with voices in there. And that's another company that is doing that. Baidu, which is the Google of China, they do also simultaneous interpreting. That's what they've been working on, and this is what they call it. And then YouTube has been doing machine dubbing, which is the voiceover that we said, lector voiceover. They don't do lip syncing, yeah, but they call it dubbing, which is again available now on some of the channels. And then again, you can activate subtitles in YouTube. Now you can also activate revoicing in other languages. And this is the way it's evolving. So that gives you an idea of the potential. That's why everybody is so excited about audiovisual translation these days, because there are lots of things that you can do with the text, with the voices, with the images, and so on. When you do with the images, you know, it can help you, for instance, to enhance machine translation. This is a project from the European Union. They're using images to boost up the quality of machine translation. If somebody says it's nice in a video, and then you can see that there is a car, and they point into a car, then you can make it is nice masculine in Spanish, because a car is masculine in Spanish, but it will become feminine in French because it will be la voiture. So you can, with the images, you can guess what the gender might be of gender neutral adjectives or nouns in English. You can also do lip syncing, and you can change the lip movements so that it fits your translation with the risks that have, and what is known as deep fakes. You think that they're saying something, but actually they've changed the lips. It's not true in the political issues that could bring about, and the challenges, that people don't know whether a person, a politician, is saying something or is not really saying something, because you cannot tell apart from the videos. And there is again this European Association, they've got this statement on generative AI and the issues that might bring. And again, is freely available on the internet. I'm finishing now. This is my last PowerPoint slide here. So what you've got a bit, the challenges into the future is, you should be training yourselves. You should be familiar with the cloud, because that's what everybody is working these days on. But some of the clouds are not available to you because they only allow the translators to use that. So it's a bit of a challenge. How can you be working with the new technology if they don't allow you to? There is this Una Edu, which is a platform. You can use it for free, I think, for a month, and will give you an idea of what you can do and play with the tools. And I would strongly recommend that you take a look and at least are familiar if you are interested in working in this field. You can do, of course, project management. Everybody, I understand that all of you would like to be translators and so on, but many companies are always looking for project managers, because audiovisual productions are problematic, are challenging. You need the version for dubbing, for subtitling, with audio description, with subtitles for people with different hard of hearing. You've got lots of files, lots of videos and MP4s, subtitles with SRTs, the other and that. And they like people like you that know about audiovisual translation and can take control or projects in 30 languages or whatever. So that's an area. If you haven't thought about it, think again, because it might be interesting. We are seeing more and more machine translation, post-editing, and we need to incorporate it more in our classroom, because the industry is also doing some things. More specialization. As I mentioned to you, for instance, not long ago, the FIFA contacted me. They wanted translators, subtitlers, but not just subtitlers that knew about football. Yeah, that know about more, they're a bit more specialized. The European Parliament was subtitlers that know also about law, about institutional register, and so on. And to me, it's just normal. We've been working in translation generally, and then we went for medical translation, literary translation, law, legal translation, more or less in audiovisual. We've got so many productions that we also want to take care of those with specialists in the area. And then the thing that is happening, that before we were all against it, is that many people are translated into the foreign language. So there might be an Arabic soap opera that needs to be translated into many other languages, and then what they're going to be asking you to translate from Arabic into English, and then from English into other languages. And this is something, for instance, I've never trained my students to work into the other language. They always work into their mother tongue, but I can see the industry is changing there, and that's another challenge that we need to embrace and see how best we can resolve it with our students. So with this is the end of my presentation. Shukran to everyone, and my apologies, the exclamation mark should be at the end, not at the beginning of the sentence. My apologies for the little hiccup beginning, having to come out and in, but I hope it wasn't too disruptive in here. Thank you very much. Shukran.
Okay, shukran. So, muchas gracias, Professor Cintas. Thank you very much again, okay, for your interesting and enlightening lecture. Really, it was a brilliant and an interesting, topic that you have highlighted from different perspectives, different angles. We have learned a lot from your experience, from your details, from your ideas, etc.
Thank you.
So, so we are familiar with the name of this AVT as a audiovisual translation, but that you have mentioned its industrial name of the discipline in industry, media localization in the age of streaming. This is I think, the industrial name of the discipline. So, but it is not the academic one. Okay, that is what makes us understand the extent to which new technologies have really widened the scope of a audiovisual translation. Okay, it has become much more richer than ever before, thanks to these new technologies, really. And AVT is being is being developed, I mean, incessantly thanks to these new technologies, okay, with which we are not so familiar. So we as teachers, as professors, researchers, we need to, okay, I mean, more training, I mean, in this area to grasp, I mean, okay, the components of this new technology, this trend in translation studies, okay. So you have I mean, highlighted many ideas regarding, I mean, audiovisual translation in terms of let's say, theory, in terms of disciplines and sub-disciplines, and the component of each one of them, either, let's say, dubbing or revoicing or subtitling or subtitling or etc., etc. Okay, so really one of the ideas that has caught our attention is I mean, for example, EVT has not undermined the role, the presence of the people with deficiencies, especially the deaf people. Okay, so they have been taken into account. This is an issue that needs to be discussed, that doesn't need to be overlooked. So, because in terms of human rights, of course, especially during let's say, as we give the case with the World Cup in Qatar, okay, they took that into account. That is a good idea. Okay,
It
so
also comes, like, if I can chip in there, it is, audiovisual translation, dubbing, subtitling. You do it or you don't do it, the problem. Accessibility is by law in
by
many
law,
countries.
is
You have to do it. It comes, for instance, the United Nations, they've got a declaration of human rights, and is part of the human rights of an individual, that you shouldn't be left behind. And of course, when we think about accessibility, it's always a space. But now they say, no, there is other accessibilities, like, for people with sensory disabilities. If everybody is the computer, on the screen, the governments are doing videos for everything, information is on video, you need to make them available. And they mention audio description and SDH, and in the European Union as well, by law. And in many countries it's legislated. So there has to be, for instance, to give you an idea, in the BBC, 100%, everything has to have subtitles. There is no excuse not to have them. And 20% needs to be audio described. If they don't do it, they can be penalized.
So
It's very strict.
And sometimes, for example, because now sometimes what I do to my students, we watch movies in British English or in American English, okay, for many reasons, for example. And so we hear, the film is its original language in English, but at the same time we use subtitles, okay, because sometimes the pronunciations, Scottish pronunciation or Irish or Jamaican or Nigerian, etc., etc. So to make it clear for the students. So the issue, for example, of translation silence for the deaf, the issue of the presence of Netflix in the Arab world, for example, in Arabic-speaking countries, especially in the Middle East, in the Gulf, because I don't know why. Can you tell us why, for example, it is so present in the Middle East, in the some Arabic-speaking, especially in Emirates, Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Kuwait?
Sorry, what was the question? I didn't get it.
I think, for example, that Netflix is present in many Arabic-speaking countries, especially in the Middle East, or more specifically, I think the percentage of membership is very high. I think it's for money, because as they are rich people.
Could well be. Although Netflix, usually the platforms, they tend to be not too expensive. It will be the amount of maybe going to the cinema once, and then you can have it for the whole month. So that's what they try to bring into your mind. But yes, I think it's still Egypt continues to be the sort of hub for many platforms. So they will have their headquarters. When they devolve it into the countries, there will be Netflix Egypt, and then there will be the managers of Arabic that is done, and so on, for dubbing, for subtitles. So it's still there, but yes, you do have with Al Jazeera as well, in Qatar and so on, that they have been investing heavily into translation into Arabic. They went from the traditional Arabic that was used in Disney, for instance, that was mostly Egyptian Arabic. Then they redubbed everything with MSA, because they had the money and they wanted to just make it a political statement that we're going to redub, So yes, there's a lot more money there to be doing new things and being exploring new opportunities in translations.
And I think AVT is very
Excuse me.
lucky.
Yeah.
I'll pave the floor for questions in 2 minutes, Professor Qasmi. Okay, the opportunity to you and to other students too. Just
Yes.
say, for example, AVT is very lucky because it is open up to business and the business companies which invest in this area. That is why it's encouraged and it's faster than not like other types of translation. Let's say, okay, the literary translation, etc. So one thing I would like to, here to highlight the question of, for example, in a film you can find, the main language in a film, in a movie is English, for example, but it can sometimes you find yourself in a multilingual context in which characters speak other languages. Let's say, for example,
More and more stuff.
an American actor. An American he's speaking English, but suddenly he finds himself in a context in which he speaks French. His French is very good. He speaks, but his pronunciation is influenced by the American accent. So when it comes to dubbing, how are we going to solve the problem? Okay, to show to the to addressee, the watcher, the viewer, that character is very good at English in terms of grammar and syntax, etc. But when it comes to pronunciation, it's a total failure because influenced by his mother language, which is English in this case. For example,
in subtitles for people who are deaf, you will say it speaks with French accent.
For example, and I have a suggestion. For example, an American actor speaking French. I have dealt with Americans at work when I was in Spain, for example, at the hotel. We used to receive customers from English-speaking countries, basically from America. Okay, so the French they speak. Je ne peux pas répondre à votre question parce que je suis fatigué. If an actor speaks in such way, for example, and you are asked to subtitle that, to translate into Arabic, I think my suggestion would be أنا لا أتكلم اللغة مثلا الصينية وأريد أن أذهب إلى. I think this can be okay done in
it's a risky solution. Usually you're going to be dictated by the content owner. Tell you,
okay, yes.
No, we don't want to do that because it looks, you seem to be it seems like a caricature of the original, and that's not the intent of the original. If it's content decisive, it really means something in the film, and you need to make the distinction between the characters. Then they will allow you to do something. Maybe use speaking in English, voila, blah, 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 or comme on dit chez nous, blah, 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 and continue in English. And then that will give you a few hints that clearly the person is referring to another language, and maybe using French, an English person will understand a few words there. But there are many, many solutions. And of course, Patrick Zavalgascoa has been working a lot on this, on how to deal with multilingualism, and it's happening more and more. You've got one of the TV series in Netflix, which I think is called 1892, about 20 different languages. So people are talking in all sorts of languages, and in English they are connotated. In dubbed version, sometimes what you leave them and then subtitle. You're not gonna even try to just dub them into French, but you're gonna leave them in Swedish and then subtitles in French, and the rest is dubbed into French.
We have another phenomenon. We have, for example, in Arabic-speaking countries, we live in a polyglossic or diglossic situation. For example, we have the high language variety and the low variety. Let's say the categorization. Even in Morocco, because we have a classical Arabic, and Fusha, and we have dialects, varieties of Arabic dialects in the north, in the east, and that poses a problem forward. And next week, inshallah, we are going to deal with some documentaries, Al Jazeera, broadcast on Al Jazeera, about this issue of translating dialects, from Moroccan Arabic to Syrian and Jordanian Arabic, so that the message could be understood by the others. Now, I'm very thankful to you again, Professor Cintas, for your lightning, really an interesting lecture. Okay, so and now I'm going to pave the way for professors and PhD students, to ask you questions or to add comments, anything. Okay, so the floor is yours, dear teachers and the PhD students. Go ahead, please.
I'm also keeping an eye on the chat if anybody would like to write rather than
Yes.
speak.
Okay. Speaking of
Well,
writing,
I'd like to give the word to Mr. Mohammed Bilbasha to say a word. Mr. Bilbasha, you there?
yeah, Mr. Mohammed, you're welcome.
Muted.
Thank you, Si Qasmi, for giving me the chance to first to express my sincere gratitude and thankfulness to Professor Cintas for accepting to be among us. By the way, I'm the coordinator of the master's program for translation,
Nice to
caption,
meet you.
and digital media. And really, we are pleased as Cintas. We are honored, privileged also to have you among us. I have listened to your presentation for the whole time, and I found many points that are very interesting to our students. I think even just when you said that dubbing is la traduction totale, c'est la première fois que je connaissais ça. So there are many things that really are very interesting, and I think students have benefited a lot from your presentation, and also the enthusiasm and the vitality with which you were speaking to students show that you are somebody of the field, somebody who knows very well what he's saying. So thank you very much, Professor Cintas, and we are looking forward to have you in person with us in Morocco at the Faculty of Nador next time, if your time also, if you have more time.
I'd love to.
After Kenya,
With neighbors.
India.
With neighbors, so it'll be nice.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So thank you very much. So I thank you, Qasmi, for the chance. The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. So please bear with us because of the time limit. So we need to take it one more time to another platform or session on the same platform. The link is there, is pinned. So please join us on the other session for the questions.
Okay.